I did a freaking, what the fuck was it? I did a freaking, um, I can't really talk about it, but I did compete in a type of competition, that I won. And, I did this, it was like trivia questions. Oh, shit. Anyway, um, when I was studying for this, I noticed that I was trying to learn past and present cabinet members for our president 45, right? And it was difficult because a lot of these guys look like old racist men, like old white racist guys. Like there's no differentiating in their faces except for like the famous ones like Ben Carson. When I'm talking about the secretary, so Ben Carson and like Rick Perry and right, of course it's present and past, so like Sean Spicer, Steve Bannon, these people have Kelly Conway, like they have very distinctive faces, and also I've been seeing them in the news so much. But I want to give you a quick little memorization trick that worked for me, and I'm actually kind of have a photographic memory, like I'm actually kind of nice with the memorization. So what I did was is that these are um index cards that I cut in half, right? I don't know why I cut them in half, but they're just easier to hold in my hand, as opposed to the big index cards. So I just cut them in half with the regular scissors, right? And on the front, I would put the name, like the title. So this is Chief Strategist, right? And then on the back, I would put, I think you can read this, but the person's name that I need to memorize, and then a little tidbit to help me memorize their name. So of course, the thing with memorization is making those associations, right? So the first thing I would do is I'd write past people in red, right? And then I wrote on the top like if they're disgraced or not. So disgraced just in the sense of like they got kicked out or whatever happened, right? So the first thing I do is trying to like phonetically, like I just try to make associations. So Chief Strategist, Steve Bannon. Chief. The first thing, oh, before that, if you can get away with learning less words, the less words, the better. So even though someone might have a full official title, if it's possible to just learn the key nouns or the key important parts, say that, and that'll help you memorize it much better. You know what I mean? So I thought Chief Strategist, Steve Bannon. And then when I thought of Steve Bannon, I'm like, okay, he's easy to remember, but I also think of him as like a Walking Dead guy. Like he literally looks like the Walking Dead. Like he looks like a freaking zombie. So I was like, he's like the zombie chief. And so then I'm like, oh, awesome. All right. So zombie chief, Steve Bannon. And then that association, in addition to visually seeing it, is going to help you learn it. Um, I don't think I can speak to the science of it, but I'm just saying these are tricks that really work for me. So if I say zombie chief, if someone's like Steve Bannon, I'm like the zombie chief strategist, right? Or chief strategist, I'm like there's a chief, he's a zombie chief, Steve Bannon. You know what I mean? So you have to make those associations work for you. So that's like an example of one. Something else I did. Um, um, which way for ones that were harder to make those associations. What did I do? Okay, so this is another one. So this is disgrace. So this goes in my disgrace list, which was Anthony Scaramucci. Um, so I was like, okay, he was the communications director. He's disgraced. Okay, so mentally in my head, I'm saying he's one of the disgraced ones, right? Anthony Scaramucci. My note under it was Anthony Weiner has bad communication, right? Why? Just because sometimes you need to make it as obvious as possible and as personal as possible. So for me, I think a lot about Anthony Weiner, like more maybe than regular people. So I was like, well, Anthony Weiner uses Twitter in a bad way. He's got bad communication skills. He has a problem with consent. So I think, well, Anthony Weiner has bad communications. So does Anthony Scaramucci, right? So then I'm going to put that there. So when I think communications director, I'm going to think communications director, and I'm going to call to mind Anthony Weiner, and I'm going to call to mind bad communication. And then when I think of bad communication, I'm going to think of Anthony Weiner. And then when I think of Anthony Weiner, I'm going to think of Anthony Scaramucci. So you have to make those connections. And sometimes you have to plant more dots to link the two. You know, sometimes it's not so obvious. Just like, he's this disgraced communications director. It's Anthony Scaramucci. Like, sometimes that's not going to work for you. So that's why I make those links. So think, okay, how can I link this with this? How many points in between can I put? The less, the better, of course. But I was like, bad communication, Anthony Weiner, Anthony Scaramucci. Awesome. Sometimes things are more simple and then it becomes easier that way. Hold on. Oh, like I made a short rap. This is like the worst rap of all time, right? For disgrace. I'm just speaking for the disgrace ones because they're more fun. FBI. Someone in my house smoking. Disgraced FBI director, right? And it's James Comey, right? And I put, he isn't the homie, he's downright phony. Because this was difficult for me because when I looked at James Comey, I'm like, once again, just looks like one of these racist white guys. So it's like, they kind of all look alike to me. So I was like, okay, FBI director. And then I'm like, Comey. So it's like, James Comey. He isn't the homie. He's not real. He's downright phony. Right? And that was my rap for James Comey that I just sang over the phone to my friend. He's like, really, did you have to do that? I'm like, yeah. Because that helped me. Because that silly shit, that silly Bob, that helped me think he's the disgraced FBI director. He isn't effective. Blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? So that's what I did for this. And colors work too, especially if you make them. So like I said, all my disgrace people were in red. And I wrote disgrace in green on the top. That helps a lot in visually calling to memory. My last one that I'll show you guys is just what I did for Kelly Conway, because I had thought that in the actual cabinet she had a more, what's the word, like a bigger position, but I actually didn't know. She's just a counsel, like she's just a cabinet counsel, and you know, like she did the stuff with the campaign, but I was like, oh, she's just counsel? So sometimes that's easy, because I was like, so in my head I think Kelly Conway, learning information about her was disappointing. Why? Because she's just a cabinet counsel. You know, she's a counselor for the cabinet. So I think about that. Kelly Conway. That face. Right? But then after I think of that face, I think she's disappointing. For more reasons than one. Because I thought she had a different position. Because I thought she was such and such. But she's really just counsel. Right? So that comes to mind too. So that's just a one memorization technique. I guess that's not very formal, but it worked for me. And I actually, you know, I did something and I did a sort of competition thingy and I won. And they actually didn't ask cabinet questions either, which was interesting, but, ow! I'm a weirdo. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Fuck you. Anyway. Yeah, so that's my memorization techniques. I hope that was cool for y'all. And yeah, do you have any cool memorization techniques? If you do and you'd like to share them, let me know. I love thinking about new ways like hacks and things like that. So hope that was useful for you. And I will see you in the next video. Okay, bye bunnies.